Caregiving can sometimes feel like an impossible struggle. Caregivers may be torn between taking care of loved ones and trying to maintain balance in life. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The Caring Generation with host Pamela D. Wilson is here to focus on the conversation of caring. You're not alone. In fact, you're in exactly the right place to share stories and learn tips and resources to help you and your loved ones. So now, please welcome the host of the Caring Generation, Pamela D. Wilson.
I'm Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert, speaker, educator, consultant, and guardian of the caring generation. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's show, Protecting Aging Parents, Caregiving Strategies to Avoid Family Caregiver Manipulation. This is episode number 225 in year 8 of this podcast. Before jumping into this week's topic, please, if you find this podcast helpful, click the like or follow button on your podcast app and take a minute to add a positive review. Your likes, follows, and reviews help the Caring Generation podcast grow and reach more listeners worldwide who are seeking solutions related to caregiving, health, finances, legal matters, and complicated family relationships. Let's start by talking about manipulation. It's a two-way street. I'll share some definitions and background information so that we can put caregiver manipulation in the proper context for this discussion about caregiver manipulation being a form of elder abuse. I know, no one likes the words elder abuse. Unfortunately, elder abuse most often happens within families. Family members hide it. This makes it important to discuss manipulation as a form of elder abuse when we talk about care and caregiving, just like we talk about the weather. When thinking of manipulation related to caregiving, the first thought is often an elderly parent using whatever tactics necessary to manipulate the caregiver, to make the caregiver feel guilty, to respond quickly to emergencies, give a parent immediate attention, respond to dramatic behaviors or emotional outbursts. Manipulation can cause the caregiver to feed into the parent's insecurities and their fear of abandonment by constantly being available and constantly showing up. All the while, the parent who is doing the manipulating really doesn't care about the caregiver. They have a lack of empathy for the stress their behaviors cause the caregiver. A manipulative elderly parent wants what they want, and they may do whatever they can to get it. If you're the caregiver, from your perspective, manipulation can look like a lack of appreciation. You feel bad because you never, ever can do enough. Your parent's never happy. It looks like a parent who really doesn't care about your life outside of caregiving, or even if you have one. Mom or dad wants your full attention and 100% control over your daily life, your work life, your friends, social activities, marriage, and so on. You try to step out of the house, they're calling you, asking you where you are, where you're going, and why you're going. The sad truth, though, is that most caregivers unwittingly give into manipulation. They become full-time caregivers without even realizing they've been manipulated. Family members and your culture tell you, oh, it's your duty. It's your responsibility to be the caregiver. You should do this as the daughter and the son. The people telling you that are manipulating you. Everything depends on the circumstances and the parameters that need to be set around caregiving. This is called setting boundaries, and everyone should set boundaries. So let's talk a little bit more about manipulation. People who are manipulative purposely mislead another person with the intent of creating some type of a response. Now, the behaviors that create this response result from the manipulator wanting to influence the caregiver to do something or to control the behavior, the thoughts, and the emotions of the caregiver, ultimately to the manipulator's advantage, right? They want you to feel bad. They want you to feel like you have to do all these things. But let's look at this from an opposite perspective. What if the manipulator is not the elderly parent, but the primary caregiver or caregivers of the elderly person? This is the side of manipulation that is rarely talked about. Because remember, families hide this information. Many don't want anybody to know about it. Let's take manipulation one step further before we talk about family caregivers who are the manipulator. Manipulation is also a form of social influence that lacks respect for another person. It can be your family and your culture saying, "Oh, we don't talk about that outside the family. Our family would never do that. We don't do that. You can't go tell anyone about that." The influencers here seek to exploit another person's lack of education, knowledge, self-esteem, and intelligence because they want to have you respond in a certain way. They want you to fit in. They want you to follow family responsibilities and duties. They don't want you to go outside and do something different. Social influence outside of a family relationship can also be information that you hear or watch on the news, which lacks transparency because it fails to offer both sides of the story. Anytime you hear somebody talking about only one side of the story, ask yourself, what's the other perspective? What's the thinking about this on the opposite side? You'll be glad that you did. Transparency of information is crucial in all relationships, especially family caregiving relationships. Because the minute someone, your elderly parents, brothers or sisters, aunts or uncles, starts hiding information from everybody else, this can turn into a big problem. Now, there is a difference between privacy and transparency. Privacy is an individual's right to decide about how their information is shared so that other people don't intrude on their life. This means that everyone has the right to have their personal matters kept private and not publicized. Everybody also has the right not to be subjected to substantial government interference in your personal life. So related to information sharing, it's best to understand or set boundaries around goals for each specific caregiving information that can be shared. If the goal is to really minimize conflict in a family and address suspicions that anyone in the family might have about a sibling, an aunt, an uncle, a parent harming another person, then transparency by sharing information and talking about information openly is one way to achieve this goal. How many of you have ever considered that your elderly parent might be manipulated by a family member, their brother or sister, one of your siblings, their parent, or even a friend? Well, it happens, and it probably happens more often than you might imagine. Most family members, though, when they see this, are unsure of what to do when they discover manipulation. Because the person doing the manipulation says, oh, I only want to do what's best for mom and dad. I care so much. I don't want this to happen to mom or dad. Or sometimes they say, well, to mom and dad, we have to protect you from them. I'm the one who cares about you. My other brothers and sisters, they don't care. They're not showing up. These statements of, look at what I'm doing for you, or what other people are not doing for you. In many circumstances, they're one-sided. They're served with a lot of drama and self-serving behavior because the person making the statements wants to separate the elderly person from everybody else. They want that person to become paranoid and distrusting of other people and fearful. And this is especially bad if an elderly parent has dementia or Alzheimer's, because paranoia and fear can be aspects of memory loss. So if you're the family member on the other side, don't let this family caregiver, manipulator, intimidate you. Is any of this happening in your family? Is one of your parents manipulating or controlling the other? Is one of your brothers and sisters the manipulator? Does one of your parents have a manipulated friend who tries to separate your parent from the rest of the family because, oh my gosh, they are such a good friend. They are such a close friend. Truly, a good friend and a close friend would never do that. So the question here to ask is, what would you do? Or what will you do when you see manipulation happening to an elderly parent? Now, as I mentioned, most caregivers, adult children, they turn the other way. They don't want to deal directly with the manipulative person because the manipulative person may have a big personality. They may throw a fit. They may cause a scene. It may be embarrassing. Realize those emotional outbursts are purposely manipulative. Their goal is to scare you away, to drive other people away. And when this happens, what do? You give the manipulator more power. Through all of this, through people not wanting to speak up and say, hey, that's wrong, stop doing that, the manipulator continues to gain strength and power and control, becoming even more challenging and scary to deal with. So what happens? Your elderly parent, they become more isolated, emotionally and physically imprisoned in their own house, or in the house of your sibling if that's where they live. Your parents, they're prevented from seeing or talking to people outside of that house. The manipulator has brainwashed your parent into believing that they are the only person and the best person to care for them, and that everybody else isn't helping, even though you're probably asking, and the manipulator is saying, oh, I have this, I don't need your help, don't worry about it. Well, worry about it. If you're still uncertain about whether manipulation is happening in any of your relationships, including your caregiving relationships, here are a few signs. Drama queens, drama kings, that person in your family who throws a big, huge, colossal fit or makes a big deal about a minor issue to turn it into a major crisis that must have attention now. And if or when this person is given any feedback, they react defensively. They blow up. They make the person giving the feedback the problem. If you're the person giving the feedback, that manipulator is skilled. They know what they're doing. They turn the problem back on you to make you think that your actions are causing the problems. It's never anything they did. Or they may conveniently just forget what happened and take no responsibility for the problem or the situation. Drama can also lead to what's called gaslighting. Gaslighting, it's an old term. It's a sign of psychological manipulation where one person acts to cause another person to question their judgment or their memory. It's a tactic used to gain power and control in a relationship, which is exactly what this manipulator wants to do to you or a vulnerable elderly parent, especially an elderly parent who may be forgetful due to Alzheimer's or dementia. So what can you do? You can start writing down information about the conversations that you have with the manipulator. Record the conversations on your phone. Request that you have a virtual meeting and record the virtual meeting. Stop the manipulation tactics. Manipulators also exaggerate situations to make them seem worse than they are. They take things personally, they play the victim, and in these cases, if there are multiple siblings, start setting family meetings and establish acceptable behaviors, of which drama is not one. Set ground rules for bringing concerns to everybody. Everybody gets an email. Everybody meets. Establish transparency guidelines for confirmation, conversations, and information sharing. Avoid having conversations without all of your siblings present if it's an important conversation. Never have a conversation where you're talking about one sibling and they're not included. Never have a conversation where your sibling says, "Oh, don't tell, brother John or sister Mary." Stop the manipulation. People who constantly call you with problems, if this is the manipulator, their goal might be to drop all of their problems on you instead of learning how to deal with them. Don't allow that. Don't do it. If somebody comes to you with a problem, and this could be your elderly parent, the question you ask is, well, gosh, what do you want to do about that? What does that look like for you? How are you going to handle it? Then you look at the criticizing part. If anybody you know constantly criticizes other people for being mean or doing things to them, it's probably pretty likely that this person's behavior is a contributing factor to those problems. If you have someone like this in your family, honestly, you probably just don't even want to be around them, which is their goal, right? They want to drive you away so they can have control over your parent. But think about this. If the manipulator is the primary person caring for mom or dad, how on earth do you think your parents feel? Now, it is possible that your parents encouraged this behavior in your brother or sister. But by now, your parents may be totally regretting their actions. The problem is, they don't know how to get away from your controlling brother or sister. If your sibling is so attached and entrenched in your parents' lives, trying to separate them, it can be a huge battle. You can do it by creating a timeline of events and a fact list. We'll talk more about this in a couple minutes. Another type of manipulation is misleading or hiding information. So let's say that the caregiver purposely does not share the seriousness of a parent's medical condition, and they end up in the hospital, and you only hear about the hospitalization after they're home, not while it was happening. And during all of this, your sibling made a lot of decisions without talking to anybody in the family. And this is concerning. Maybe this is a situation where your parent has dementia and your sibling is trying to hide the seriousness of the memory loss so that they can take advantage of your parent. Mom and dad won't remember how much money was in the bank account. They won't remember what they agreed to or didn't agree to. Your sibling starts writing checks to themselves. Maybe they even had your parents' legal documents, like a power of attorney, a will, or a trust, changed to make them the primary agent. These are all serious, serious red flags. Do you have a sibling that is limiting your access to visit or talk to a parent? Do you wonder why? What do they have to hide? What are they doing that they wouldn't want anyone else in the family to know about? What secrets is this person keeping from everyone? If you're seeing any of these examples in your family, ask the question, what's going on? Why is this person doing their best to divide your family, to control mom or dad, to isolate mom and dad, to make family disagreements bigger than they are, or to blame you for everything that's going on because you're looking for information? What does this person have to gain or protect by doing what they're doing? Manipulating an elderly parent is a form of control, power and control, that contributes to elder abuse. While most people may not see manipulation to be a form of elder abuse, it is if it's causing physical or emotional harm, resulting in isolation, preventing visitation, preventing family conflict, preventing family communication, not being transparent about what's going on, is a form of manipulation. All of this, power and control over a parent. If it's doing harm, it is a reportable offense to the police or adult protective services if you can't resolve it in your family. Going back, I'm going to repeat this. When family members see the effects of manipulation and know that it's not good for mom and dad, a lot of family members just don't do anything. Their waiting, though, gives the manipulator more and more control. The manipulator can do more and more damage, either financially or to the health and well-being of an elderly parent. And these caregivers who see this and say, I can't do anything, they tell me that it's because they don't want to cause problems in the family. Well, honestly, if you're at a point where one of your parents or a brother or sister is manipulating and harming someone in the family, there's already a problem. If you have siblings you don't trust or you don't like who are harming your parents, there's already a problem in your family. By not doing anything, by not speaking up, by not saying anything, you make the problem worse because you're keeping a secret. You are allowing the manipulation and the harm and the abuse to continue. Your failure to act is a form of abuse. And while you might be worried about causing conflict in your family, it probably already exists. How much more harm are you willing to watch or to allow to happen to mom or dad before you stand up and do something? If you were in your parents' position, might you hope that one of your children, would come forward, they would stand up and say to the others, this isn't right. Or say, mom and dad have dementia, they can't advocate for themselves, so I'm going to speak up and help them. I'm sorry that you disagree. To stop the abuse, as I mentioned before, you need factual information, documentation of suspicious events, proof of financial harm, a list of harm to a parent's health by the controlling person. If you have this information, you can confront the manipulator. You can say, hey, this isn't okay. This has to stop. What are we going to do? Be transparent. You can have a family meeting to say, hey, no more. We're done with this. You can also contact Adult Protective Services and the police if you can't resolve this in your family. You present them with facts and let them know that you will help with whatever information they need because they're probably going to need your help. If the facts you have are accurate, it's obvious, right? It's going to cause conflict with the person who's the manipulator. But why do you care if they're the one harming your parents? Now, on the other hand, your parent may be angry because they felt that they had to protect your brother or sister who's the manipulator, who obviously claims to be the only person in the world who cares about them. This happens most when adult children and parents have been in a codependent, lifelong relationship. Or when an adult child never quite made it on their own. They never launched, and so they depended on their parents to financially and emotionally support them their entire lifetime. The question the parent should have asked is, how long can we do this? What happens when we're gone? What's going to happen to our child that we've made dependent on us? It's a problem. The good thing here is that you care. You're listening, you're watching, and you're documenting. That's why you are doing something to stop the manipulation and the abuse. I get it. It's the pits. It's hard. But doing something is the right thing to do. Doing something is the adult thing to do as much as you would rather not do anything and look the other way. If you've tried, if your efforts haven't been successful, or if you're just trying to come up with a plan because you're watching a manipulative family elder care situation. It doesn't matter if you're the person being manipulated or a family member witnessing the manipulation. If you'd like one-to-one support, schedule a consultation with me. Go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on the Services tab, then Elder Care Consultant, and complete the online form. I'm Pamela D. Wilson, a caregiving expert, advocate, educator, and speaker. You're with me on The Caring Generation. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 225, Protecting Aging Parents. Caregiver strategies to avoid family caregiver manipulation. If you want to view the show transcript and the video that accompanies this podcast, go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on the Media tab, select The Caring Generation, and scroll down to episode 225. And while you're there, check out the other 224 episodes. Again, thank you for being here. I look forward to being with you again soon. God bless you all. Sleep well tonight. Have a fabulous day tomorrow and enjoy each day until we are here together again.
Tune in each week for The Caring Generation with host Pamela D. Wilson. Come join the conversation and see how Pamela can provide solutions and peace of mind for everyone. Here on Pamela D. Wilson's The Caring Generation.